Okay, we have to talk about Doom: The Dark Ages and how you can actually run this on your MacBook. Specifically, I've been testing this on the Mac Studio, and I know what you're thinking. A MacBook or a Mac Studio running Doom, that's impossible. But hear me out. Thanks to cloud gaming platforms like Boosteroid, it is 100% doable. And today, I'm going to show you how exactly it runs, what the tech limitations are, and if it's even worth your time. No gimmicks, no hypes, just raw performance and setup details. So without taking too much of your time, let's get into the video. All right, so my setup is pretty simple. This is the M2 Max Mac Studio with a 12-core CPU and a 30-core GPU and about 32 gigs of unified memory. And I'm on macOS Sonoma 15.4, and storage-wise, I've got this up to 1 terabyte of SSD with just under 500 gigs at the time of this testing. And for the cloud gaming side of things, I use Boosteroid, of course. I have tested both Safari, Chrome, and even Arc browser to see if there were any major differences, but either browser works just fine. Boosteroid also has a standalone app if you want to go that route, but for this test, browser-based streaming was more than enough. The internet connection was a wired Ethernet cable, which was about 1 gigabit of symmetric fiber. And let me just say, you really want to be wired in when you're playing this kind of game, because I ran a few quick Wi-Fi tests and the quality dipped very fast when heavy gameplay was happening. Okay, so Boosteroid streams the game at a locked 1080p at 60 frames per second. That's the cap. There is no native 4K, no way to mess with those settings like VSync or DLSS ray tracing because it's not running locally. You're limited to whatever machine Boosteroid is using on their end and at the time. Visually though, it holds up very well. Even at 1080p, the gothic castles, the cosmic horror vibes, all of it came through well on the Mac Studio's display. You lose some of the finer details you'd expect if this was running natively at 4K, but on a regular monitor, it looks good enough to just enjoy. Now, in terms of tweaks or setup, zero config file edits, no terminal commands, no hacks, it's just plug and play, which is something that I really liked, which is exactly what you're looking for as somebody with a MacBook or a Mac Studio or whatever Mac machine you're using. FPS wise, it stayed locked in at 60 frames per second for majority of the gameplay, even when things got hectic during big fights or cinematic moments. Now, here are the downsides because cloud gaming is never perfect. UI glitches were minimal, though I did notice occasional blurring when the HUD popped up fast, like swapping weapons or mid-combat pickups. Audio was clean for the most part, but in really chaotic scenes, you can hear, compression artifacts. It's subtle, but if you're wearing good headphones, you will notice it very quickly. The cutscenes were really good. I had no major bugs. Textures held up pretty well, and the animation was smooth. Even on stream gameplay, stability was very solid. I ran a 2-hour session with 0 crashes. Boosteroid's connection held up, which honestly surprised me, given how aggressive Doom's combat can get. Now, for those who love the hard numbers, here is what I tracked during my gameplay. Like I've already said, the frames per second was locked in at 60 frames per second, but every now and then I got a few dips, but nothing really that, disrupted my experience. CPU and GPU usage on the MacBook hovered between 25 to 35%, which makes sense since all the heavy lifting happened on Boosteroid servers. RAM usage sat around 7 to 9 gigs, accounting for system processing, Boosteroid's browser window, and background tasks. When you're on a wired connection, frame stuttering is almost non-existent, but on Wi-Fi itself, there were noticeable stutters, especially if other devices were clogging up your network. So the big question is, should you actually play Doom: The Dark Ages on a Mac Studio or a MacBook through Boosteroid? Now, if you're someone who wants access to AAA games without hassles of, partitioning your drive or dealing with crossover or any sketchy emulator, this setup is honestly very solid. But if you're someone who needs perfect image quality, low latency inputs for hardcore, ultra difficult runs, or native 4K gameplay, this probably isn't going to cut it out for you because cloud gaming has its limits. But for campaign runs, casual demon slaying, and the novelty of saying, yeah, I'm playing Doom on a MacBook or a Mac Studio, it gets the job done, and the setup is dead simple. Alright, that's my full breakdown of Doom: The Dark Ages on the Mac Studio through Boosteroid. Now, if you want me to test out other cloud gaming platforms, just let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button as this goes a long way for us. And with all that being said, my name is KJ, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.